Okay, good morning. This morning we're going to continue with the Tabernacle, Ark of the Covenant. I know you guys are really wanting to get to the Ark of the Covenant and the Tabernacle. However, I do have some emails that have been piling up on questions that need answered. Most of them can be taken care of with simple correspondence. Sometimes, though, you would be rest assured that if someone asks a question and it's a kingdom believer, it's not an easy one. Usually they're not, So sometimes they'll ask questions they don't even know how big the answer really is, So this morning I was had gotten some emails I was catching up on. This is from one of our super fans. She said, "So you reminded me. What is your non-PG opinion on the whole ham situation?" And then she mentions a pastor and other teachers who mentioned that Ham's great sin was that of incest. Do you agree that it was incest? Personally, I find that hard to swallow as a mother, but I value your opinion. All right, so we're going to address that question to our superfan this morning. Like I said, that is not an easy one to answer like that. And if this won't be my opinion, this will be what the Bible teaches. So let's get that straight. We're going to straighten out the opinion of other ministers and authors this morning. So, we'll start in Genesis 9:19. Here's the story. These are the 3 sons of Noah, and of them was the whole earth spread. And Noah began to be an husbandman, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. Okay, so in verse 20, we've got Noah is now a farmer, and he grows or raises grapes. Interestingly enough, on a side note, that word husbandman is the first appearance of the word husband. You do a word study on that, it means one who is bound to the land, or one who is bound to the house, or one who binds the land, or one who binds the house. Okay, so that's husbandman. He planted a vineyard, okay. 21, he drank the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent. Okay, so those grapes that he had planted, he made wine, and apparently drank enough to get drunk. Now, this should be, to me, solid evidence that wine was found in Bible times. This is not Welch's grape juice. This is wine, fermented grapes. Okay, and a lot of people want to make a big stink over the whole water wine, and was wine really something that they drank? There's nothing wrong with wine. There's absolutely everything wrong with getting drunk. So this is not a verse condemning alcohol. This is a verse, or wine. This is just what happens. So alcohol is not condemned. Drunkenness is. That's it. And of course, we can see that this was indeed wine, not grape juice. No reason to make a big stink of that. And some people actually, if you go through enough commentaries, you'll see a lot of people defending Noah and his drunken state here by saying, well, Noah was ignorant, and he didn't know that what he was making would get him drunk. So this was accidental poisoning or accidental drunkenness or what have you to save Noah the trouble of getting drunk. I'm not saying it was a habitual thing, but this happened at least once. So the Bible, though, it doesn't, and you'll notice, there's no reason to defend Noah here. The Bible doesn't attempt to hide sin, even with our great patriarchs like Noah. So he got drunk. David's sin, we know it. The Bible doesn't attempt to hide his sin either, does it? Now, he murdered someone, the great king of Israel, right? So no reason to try to say, oh, well, it was accidental and Noah's off the hook. Well, he accidental or not, he got drunk. So does this mean, so Noah, the great patriarch, was he perfect then? No, he wasn't. Now, the Bible does say that he was perfect in his generations. And that means his bloodline was pure. That's what that means. But as far as him being a mortal man, that's exactly what he was. He was a mortal man. And if he was perfect, as the commentators want to make him out to be, then he should still be alive today, right? Because the wages of sin is death. Well, if you look at verse 29 here, and all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Okay, so Noah sinned, for sure. And if this wasn't a sin because of ignorance, you can be sure that he must have at least sinned in once in the 950 years he was on earth. At least once. Anyway, the Bible's clear that drunkenness is sinful. And in this case, this sin of Noah's led to his shame. So verse 22, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father and told his two brethren without. Okay, now this verse here is the one that's used to make Ham guilty, supposedly, of some sexual immorality, such as homosexuality or incest. This is the verse, and this is what the question was about. And I've actually heard it taught this way, that this was the great sin of Ham, because of what this verse says. But sexual immorality, homosexuality, incest, anything that would have been considered a sin is not in this verse. So I do not know where they're getting that, because it's not in there. So now if he saw the nakedness, just as verse 22 says, either accidentally or involuntarily, that's not a sin. Okay? It's not. So that's the confusion that I had as a kid, and I've heard other people talk about, or other people have talked about as well, is they're like, well, Reed, I heard that Ham saw his father's drunkenness, and that curse that follows is a big one. So don't see family members naked, don't get naked in front of people, nudity, no. And it really spooked me as a kid, because I thought, well, how do you avoid that sort of thing in the gym locker rooms at school, the shower room, at the YMCA, the doctor's office, the physician? As a family, you guys all know that sometimes when there's only one bathroom, you walk in and someone's in the shower or something. So I thought it was this great sin to see this nakedness of a family member. Well, that's confusion was born out of this whole, that's Ham's sin thing. This sexual sin Ham must be guilty of. But you have to understand, so what it is Noah got drunk and either passed out totally naked, partially naked, or in a way in which he was exposed. Okay, that's what we know. So we have to understand then the difference between the word and phrase uncovered and uncovering the nakedness. Okay, and there's where it lies. So uncovered, in Noah's case, is a shameful exposure. Okay, and that's what Ham saw. His father's shame in being passed out in the nude or uncovered. Okay, so accidental or involuntary, who knows? But we do know Ham discovered it, right? Now, what about uncovering the nakedness? This phrase is used when it concerns illicit and or abnormal sexual practices, and this associates nakedness then with uncleanness. Okay, and remember what we taught on earlier with the high priest in his breeches. Okay, that kind of nakedness is considered uncleanness or abomination or wickedness, because the nakedness of the ancient pagan religions of the high priest was part of the religion. Okay, it was part of the religion. And you go and investigate the fertility cults, and what we did in Moab, you'll understand. So that kind of nakedness, because of it being a part of a ritual, was an unclean thing. Okay? So we'll get to the bottom of this with Leviticus 18. We'll look at some laws here that have to do with it. And this is this is going to straighten this out once and for all. So let's see. Leviticus 18, verses 6 through 18. I will not read them all, partially because some of them are, PG-13 or better, but also because you're going to get the idea after 3 or 4 verses. So let's look at verse 6 of Leviticus 18. None of you shall approach to any of you that is near kin to him to uncover their nakedness. I am the Lord. Verse 7. The nakedness of thy father or the nakedness of thy mother thou shalt not uncover. She is thy mother. Thou shalt not uncover her nakedness. Verse 8. The nakedness of thy father's wife shalt thou not uncover. It is thy father's nakedness. 9. The nakedness of thy sister, the daughter of thy father or daughter of thy mother, whether she be born at home or born abroad, even their nakedness thou shalt not uncover. So you get the idea. Notice the verb. You do not uncover. Okay? So, Ham did not uncover. Ham saw uncoveredness. Okay? To uncovering the nakedness Removing garments in order to do what? Well, you guys have seen what it is, right? If you look over at Leviticus 20, there's similar verses that are the second witness, actually. But there's one here that doesn't use "you shall not uncover." So Leviticus 20:17, and if a man shall take his sister, his daughter's father, or his mother's daughter, and see her nakedness, and she see his nakedness, is a wicked thing. That's only half the verse. So see, there's what Ham must have been guilty of, seeing nakedness. But let's go on. And they shall be cut off in the sight of their people. He has uncovered his sister's nakedness. He shall bear his iniquity. There it is, uncovered. So this is an incest case. And you see, he uncovered his, she uncovered hers. This is consensual. Okay, that's another law on incest right there. So they were consensual in uncovering themselves to one another. Okay, so don't use that one to try to get out of the whole uncovering versus uncovering one's nakedness and seeing one uncovered. Okay, there is a difference, and that's why this gets messed up. So if you look at the chapters in Leviticus 18 and 20, you'll see that these are all of them Bible law on sexual immorality, not daily living. Okay? The laws listed in Leviticus 18 and 20 are not talking about nudity in the locker room, the doctor's office, or boot camp. It's not, is it? No. As a matter of fact, the laws listed in Leviticus 18, 19 and 20, they happen to be case laws of commandment number 7, adultery. Okay? And that's mixing pure with impure. Okay, and you see you bring anything in that's impure into the marriage, into the bed, okay, into the contract. The marriage covenant is a contract. Bringing something, an outside party in, is impurity. It's adulterating the contract. All right, so the Leviticus 18 laws concerned themselves with the uncleanness of sexual immorality, which includes, but not limited to, bestiality, incest, and homosexuality, you see? Uncovering the nakedness in order to, not seeing uncoveredness. So now we've gotten that straight. Let's go back to Genesis 9. We'll look at Genesis 9:22. I'll read that again. And Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father. Notice he didn't uncover the nakedness of his father. He saw it and told his brethren without. Okay, so he told his brethren without. So in other words, he went out into the streets and talked about it. That's what happened. Okay, that's what told without. It's Old English. So due to the curse put on Ham then that happens later, it must have been that when he went out and talked about it, it must have been in a jeering or gossiping or deriding manner. Okay? So you could almost see Ham, perhaps, not to read too much into it, but hey guys, Dad's passed out drunk. Come check this out. It's hilarious. Right? He went and told, he saw it and then went out the streets and told, in this case, the people he met, his brothers. That would be Ham and Japheth. So, the Bible then harshly condemns those who make fun of or jest about sin. It really does. And I'll prove that to you with Solomon. If you go to Proverbs 14, which I don't have these listed on the TV, I'm just going to read them quickly. Proverbs 14:9 says, "Fools make a mock at sin, but among the righteous there is favor." Okay? Think about what Ham did. What's Ham doing? Proverbs 11:13, "A talebearer revealeth secrets, but he that is of a faithful spirit conceals the matter." Now, is that what Ham is guilty of? Yes. What? What is Ham guilty of then? Well, gossip, for one. He went out and published his father's sin. The Bible tells us not to do that. Do not do that. Not to mention, commandment number 5 is honor your father. He broke that one straight away, didn't he? By what? Making fun of his dad's shame. Publishing his sin. So if Ham was pleased at what he saw in his dad's shame and found a way to make fun of him about it, if that's the case, then he's exactly guilty of what Esau Edom is guilty of as well. Okay, so let's go to, you don't have to turn there. It'll just be one verse. Obadiah, verse 12. There are no chapters in Obadiah. Obadiah, verse 12. Now this is God talking to Esau, Edom, and look what they did, similar to what Ham has done. But thou shouldest not have looked on the day of thy brother in the day he became a stranger. Neither should have thou rejoiced over the children of Judah in the day of their destruction. Neither should have thou spoken proudly in the day of their distress. Is that what Ham did? Thou shouldest not have entered into the gate of my people in the day of their calamity. Yea, thou shouldest not have looked on their affliction in the day of their calamity, nor have laid hands on their substance in the day of their calamity. Esau, Edom is here harshly condemned for kicking Israel while they're down, right? And not helping them, their own brother, right? Now look at what God intends to do with these people. Obadiah 18. And the house of Jacob shall be a fire, and the house of Joseph a flame, and the house of Esau for stubble, and they shall kindle in them and devour them, and there shall not be any remaining of the house of Esau, for the Lord has spoken it. Look at the end of this nation, who God prophesies about, because what? They looked down on Israel in their sin. Ham's doing the same thing. So, no word of sexual immorality here. It seems Ham's sin was telling people of his father's shame. Right? So verses 9 through, because there's nothing in here, and I've looked everywhere, that would tell me that there is any kind of sexual thing going on. Nothing. And I'll get to the source of that here in a second, on top of modern preachers telling everybody that. So we've got verses 20 in Genesis 9, verses 20 through 22. So what we have here is Noah grew some grapes, drank some wine, got drunk, passed out naked. His son Ham saw him, went outside, told his brothers about it. Right? So that's where we're at. Now what's next? So the different take on this is actually comes from Primogenesis. Read Primogenesis by Howard Rand. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Howard Rand. I've read all of his books, even documentary studies, volume 1, 2, 3. So, Howard Rand says this about Ham's sin. Ham's wickedness. As life began to pursue its course in a new order, the account states that Noah took up husbandry as an occupation and planted a vineyard. The next happening is one that has been greeted with incredulous surprise by Bible readers. And then he quotes Genesis 9:21. And he, Noah, drank the wine and was drunken, and he was uncovered within his tent, okay? And Howard Rand makes he goes against what the other people say as well. He says, for Noah to live and grow grapes for over 600 years and not know that grapes would ferment and produce alcohol that would make a man drunk is too far-fetched for me to comprehend. So even he says that, and I happen to agree. So that's one of the things I do agree. It followed from the fact that Noah, in a drunken sleep, lay uncovered in his tent. What did Ham do to his father that enabled Noah to know, so the record states, and Noah awoke from his wine and knew what his younger son had done to him? Okay? Surely if Ham had merely looked upon his father in his drunken stupor, even though he was unclothed, Noah would not have known this when he awoke, nor it would have called forth such a curse as pronounced upon the offspring of Ham, right? So he's saying if he just looked at him, that was no big deal. And Noah could have never known that Ham went in and saw him naked. There's no way Noah would have known that. But what about Ham going out and telling his brothers? So after this event, Noah never spoke to Shem or Japheth again? And it was never mentioned? Okay. Anyway, severe judgment has been passed upon Noah. Okay, so we keep going. So first, let us consider the fact, evidently, that Ham was racially distinct from either Japheth or Shem. The very name Ham means swarthy or dark-colored. Is this just a justification for the conclusion that the mother of Ham was not the mother of Japheth or Shem? What followed, and what the means used by God to prevent his wife Noah's wife, what followed, and the means used by God to prevent the wife Noah had with him in the ark from bearing more children other than Ham would so indicate. It is certain that the strain inherited by Ham was not inherited by either Japheth or Shem. Thus, while Noah was the father of all three sons, we deduce that they could not have had a common mother. Okay? Ham being the youngest, it would follow the woman was who was Noah's wife when he entered the ark, would be Ham's mother, but not the mother of either Japheth or Shem. While the Bible is silent on this point, which it is, and the evidence furnished in the account would lead to such a deduction, thus, while the facts are hidden from general understanding, sufficient evidence is given so that those seeking the truth may comprehend the matter. So he's going to give us this sufficient evidence. And like I said, I really do like Howard Rand, but in this case, he is dead wrong. According to Deuteronomy 23:1, a man must be physically perfect to officiate at the Lord's altar, and this law laid down for Israel was no doubt in full operation in the time of Noah, as were many of the other laws later codified for the nation Israel's instruction. In Noah's helpless state and unclothed condition, Ham saw an opportunity to prevent his father from continuing the family altar services. Ham evidently castrated his father, and then went out and told his brothers what he had done, both Shem and Japheth. They did not want to behold their father in such a condition that they took precautions as stated in the account, and they went in to cover him. Okay? For one other fact to substantiate this finding is the Hebrew word erva, translated nakedness, in the 23rd verse of the 9th chapter of Genesis. This is what we've gone over earlier. It is the same Hebrew word used in Leviticus chapter 18, that refers to sex acts, or the misuse of sex acts, forbidden by God. The divine condemnation of this is that it is wicked. Okay, so what he's done here is he's saying that word nakedness, not uncovered. Nakedness is the wickedness. So Howard Rand's made the same mistake a lot of other people have made. They will equate nakedness with uncleanness. They will make nakedness a sin. Once you do that, you've really got a mess, because then you can't ever see the doctor. And the guys like me and others that have gone to boot camp and seen 50 of them in the same room, or the showers, we're in big trouble. I missed out on the kingdom because I went to the gym locker room once upon a time, because nakedness is uncleanness, which is a filthy sin. That's a mistake. Uncovering one's nakedness. Commandment 7. Okay, incest, adultery, fornications, that. Yes, you're naked while you do that, right? But the nakedness is not. Being in a state of nakedness and seeing a family member accidentally or going to the physician's office is not, it is wickedness. Howard Rand's got that wrong, and yet he quoted the Leviticus chapters I did. He came out with a completely different deduction. So, and Noah lived to 350 years and he died. Okay, so he says that. No more children, sons or daughters, are mentioned, so we know that Noah was castrated by Ham. But with all things, God uses evil men to bring about the fulfillment of his will. The wife with Noah in the new order, being the mother of Ham, God did not intend any more children to be born with the same taint in their bloodstream as that of the veins of Ham. Okay? And you guys, have you heard this theory before? You've heard this? Oh, this is all over the place. And this came from, okay, so anyway, what he's talking about is, that's primogenesis. Careful now. Read Howard Rand. Learn from him. Destiny Publishers, amazing stuff. Primogenesis is one of my secret weapons. I like this book. Most of his studies of Jeremiah, Revelation, Daniel, excellent, excellent books. But in this one case here with Ham, Mr. Howard Rand is not correct. So, what we have then is we've got a black ham who castrated Noah. Shem and Japheth, who couldn't stand the sight of the gore, they covered the body. That's what Howard Rand just said, right? That's what he said. But why didn't he go to Bible law? That's the measuring rod, the plummet in our hands, right? Well, I'll go there. Okay, so let's just say that happened. So Ham castrated his son. Noah woke up, knew what he had done, and then cursed his grandson Canaan for it, right? That's what Howard Rand just said. So what about Deuteronomy 25, 11 and 12 says, the ones that aren't on the TV, I'm just reading quickly and we're flipping back. So that's why it's not up there. Let's see, Deuteronomy 25, 11 says, when a man strive together and one with another, and the wife of the one draweth near for to deliver her husband out of the hand of him that smiteth him, and putteth forth her hand, and taketh him by the secrets, then thou shalt cut off her hand, thy eye shall not pity her. So here's a Bible law that a woman has to have her hand chopped off if she grabs a man by the secret parts. Now, what about a guy that actually goes and cuts them off without the man's consent? If Ham walked out of this situation with both hands, he got off easy. Didn't he? Okay, there's one Bible law. Also, you notice that when we read the laws in Leviticus 18 and 20, every single one of these sexual immorality laws comes with capital punishment, death. In some cases, after death, the bodies of those who perform those sex acts is cremated to put force behind the evilness of the action, right? So, then Ham got off pretty easy. If you can't grab a man as a woman, if you can't grab his secret parts and have 10 fingers after it's all said and done, then Ham got off easy, right? I'm going from least to greatest. If you can't, if you have homosexuality, since Ham and Noah were both men, and since they did this crazy sex act with one another, consenting adults or not, that is still the death penalty, no question asked. Ham got off easy again with just the curse to his son. See the inconsistencies? God's mishandled his law. No, if Ham was guilty of incest or homosexual acts or anything of that fashion, he would have been put to death. If it had been castration, he'd have at least had a hand chopped off. I would argue he'd probably be put to death for that. Mutilation of people, that carries a severe punishment in the Bible. And that would be mutilation, right? The death penalty is also invoked. Howard Rand didn't mention this. The death penalty is also invoked for any child who curses their parents or strikes them. Now, what's more severe than striking a parent? Castration. Noah would agree. So Ham still got off easy. So it can't be that. It can't be castration, and it can't be incest. Both carry a death penalty, and Ham's alive after this. So it wasn't incest or castration then. We would have more of an account of that, possibly. Besides, Ham went on to have a bunch of kids, right? And they traveled south with him. So if his kids weren't all born before the drying out of the earth, that is, if that happened. Now, if he wasn't put to death, then Noah, Shem, and Japheth, all witnesses. There's 3. We only need 2. And he already told his brothers what he did, right? We only need 2 for the death penalty. Now, if Noah, Shem, and Japheth, if he wasn't put to death, then those 3 guys mishandled the law by making an exception in the case of Ham for capital punishment, right? Now they're at fault. But wait a second. Look, the reason why none of this went down is because there wasn't any law yet. Moses is way off. Okay. Well, what just happened here in Genesis? The flood. Why? The sin of the people on earth, right? And what is sin? Transgression of the law. If these people who just died who perished in the flood, if they were sinless people because there's no law, then that makes God a murderer. Does it not? Okay, so obviously there was law then. Noah even built an altar to God and worshipped him. Okay, so what about this Ham being black thing? I've heard this. Cushites, black people. Everybody knows that, right? Cushites, they're blacks. Ethiopians, black people. Everybody knows that. Ham going south after the flood, he's the black guy. He propagated the black race because, like Howard Rand and some kingdom ministers preach, all races came from Adam. We've got to have Ham being black because that fits the narrative, doesn't it? Okay, well, let's get this straightened once and for all. I've been around the kingdom ministry for 30 some odd years, I guess. I've never heard anybody straighten this out. I'm going to do it for you now. And you can refer to Pastor Reed. Pastor Reed knows. Let's get this Ham being black thing out of here. So, that's an opinion. That's a theory that's been spread far and wide. Now, there were Negroes in the world after the flood, okay? Several localized floods, a localized flood. There's people on earth other than these guys, okay? Now, they were a separate race from Ham, okay? God's not about to mix the races. He doesn't mishandle his own law. So, God would not allow Noah to marry a Negro woman. He wouldn't. The great patriarch? Okay. Perfect in his generations. Yeah, it kind of goes behind. Okay. So perfect in his generations, the God's like, I'll make an exception because of the flood thing. No, I don't think so. Just like they made an exception because of Ham, I guess. So we got to straighten this out because it's not working out. So now Ham and his family are found south of Mesopotamia. Now I'm not going to get into where the flood was and Urats and land and dry land, all that this morning. We're not going to do all that. But we know Ham's family popped up south of Mesopotamia in Egypt, right? We know that because that's where the black people are, right? But we know that. Ham went south to Egypt. And yes, in much later Egyptian dynasties, there is an infusion of Negro blood with them. That's why the Egyptians get dark after a time. Okay, so that's true. That's fine. We can live with that because we know all races didn't come from Adam, right? As long as we know that, this is going to make a whole lot of sense. But those Egyptians being black after mixing blood after the later dynasties by invading foreigners, that doesn't make Ham black. It doesn't. Nope. So why do people then maintain that Ham's black? Like I said, because all races came from Adam. And that makes us all equal, and we're all spiritual Israel, and blah, blah, blah. One big happy family, Jesus' love. So, which he is. Don't misunderstand me. Jesus is love. But what they preach at the churches today is all you're going to hear. So this is an erroneous doctrine found in most Christian churches, and yes, even among kingdom ministers, that all races come from Adam. And there are kingdom ministers that teach that. But you'll see after this morning that if you do teach that all races come from Adam, you are not only sorely mistaken, but you haven't done your homework. You haven't. And I know I'm just a little whippersnapper, but you didn't if you preach that. All right, so first, what we have to do is we have to understand the word Ethiopia, which is a name given to the land south of Mesopotamia. Okay, Ethiopia comes from the Greek word Aethiops. Okay, Aethiops, which comes from the root meaning warm, hot, or burned. Not burned black, but burned from the sun's heat. Okay, keep that in mind. And we're going to have another eureka moment this morning, I promise. Hang around, we'll learn some things. Now, Ethiopians were actually very early cave dwellers in the area, south over there, okay, where you think of Ethiopians. They're actually cave dwellers. Another word for that is troglodyte, and we'll come across that word again. So a troglodyte. So the root Greek word points to cave dwellers. If you go with the people, cave dwellers, troglodytes. Aethiops comes from the root Greek for warm. Okay? Warm, hot, burned. So, and that's where Rand was like, oh yeah, Ham means swarthy or black. No, we'll get there. So we have the Greek meaning here, Ethiopia. The Greek could mean, it does mean, the root means a hot land once inhabited by troglodytes. Okay? Ethiopia. Nothing about black people. Absolutely nothing. The Egyptian for Ham is Kim. It's Kim, the land of Kim, or the land of Ham. Later it's called Cush because of Ham's son, I know. Ham was in Egypt, which is called Kim. Okay, so Kim, K-E-M, Kim in the word in Egyptian means black. Okay, now you're getting it. Yeah, right, Ham was black then. Ham means black if you're in the Egyptian world. So, Ham in Egyptian, the land of Ham is the Egyptian for the land of black, or the land of blackness. Okay? Now, the Egyptian word for the land of Ham is Ka-Kim. Okay? Ka-Kim. The land of Ham is Ka-Kim. So, anytime you see Ka in the Egyptian, it's going to be the bull. The bull, like the calf, the cow, the bull. So, it means bull, so Kim, black. So, Ham, Kim, black, so there's black. So this is the land of the black bull, not the black man. Ka-Kim. Okay, Ka-Kim, the land of Ka-Kim, or the land of the black bull. And I'll prove it. Ever seen that guy? That's him. That's where he was. This was a deity in Egypt, right? You've seen this guy before. There he is. Land of the Ka-Kim. There's a Ka-Kim if you're Egyptian. Black bull. Kim for black, Ka for bull. Black bull. Okay? Kim also is the name they give Ham. The land of Ham is the land of Ka-Kim. All right, so this bull, this Ka, was a deity of fertility. It's a fertility cult. And you wonder where we got our calf worship when we left Egypt, right? Not what's the other bull's name? Bull Cathos? No, that's wrong. Anyway, there's another bull. It's not this Ka-Kim black bull. There's another one in the Egyptian mythology. He's responsible for weighing your sins and getting you to the afterworld. That's another bull. This is the black bull of fertility. We're talking about him. So because of the black, this is black bull meaning fertility. Okay, I know I'm going slow, but you got to understand this. I read a lot of Egyptian stuff, so it comes easy to me. But now, the land of the black was a land of the black soil back then. Okay, and they have cave dwellers. We go back to the northern Africa, and you will find caves that have paintings in them by troglodytes that show this was a very fertile land, full of green, lush grasses, and lots of the famous animals from Africa actually lived up north too. Elephants, lions, and leopards, they all lived up there. But now, for some reason, if you look at David Attenborough's documentaries about Earth, something happened and the Earth got blasted dry, and everything was lost. Everything's gone. We have evidence that they lived there because of cave dwellers' paintings. So anyway, because this was a black soil, the land of the blackness, the land of the black is black soil, which is what? Well, just like this bull, fertility. Now this black bull, black meaning fertile when you're the bull. Black meaning fertile because of the soil. So the cult of Egypt says the black bull is a fertility god because he's black like that fertile black soil. That's where they got the black bull. That's why the guy's black. Fertility, black. Fertility, black. Soil or the bull. All right, so that's how they put the two together. So Ka-Kim, or Ham, was two things then. Ham, the land of Ham, Ka-Kim, it's either A, hot land with black soil, which is fertile, right? Or B, a hot land of the black bull, which is a fertility cult. Okay, and the fertility back then was a big deal because that's how you lived. All right, so it was all the Egyptians could do to please this guy for better crops next year. It was very important to these guys. So black land was fertile, and the red land was not, which is east. And you'll find the Red Sea in the red land, according to the Egyptians, because it was barren. The Red Sea is in the barren lands. The black is the fertile soil. That's where you want to live. And notice nobody lives in the deserts. They live around the Nile Delta and lower to Egypt because that's where all the water and the good soil was. So we get this. So the land of Ham or Ka-Kim was not the land of black people. It was the land of black soil or the land of black bull worship. Okay? Dark. Now, Kim, when translated to the Greek, is chemia. That Kim, K-E-M, is chemia, as in chemistry or alchemy. Alchemy means to cast together magic and metals. Okay, remember the alchemists back in the day wanted to transmute iron to gold. That was the alchemy, right? So, or lead to gold. Yes, you're right. Lead to gold. Alchemy. To cast together magic and metals. Chemia comes from the Egyptian kim, meaning black. Chemia. Chemia comes from kim, K-E-M. We get our word chemia or chemistry and alchemy from it. See that? What do those mean? Why is this important to us? Well, because interestingly, alchemy is a dark Egyptian art or black magic. Black magic. Sorcery. Kim, black. Chemia, black magic from Egypt. K-E-M shows up in our language all the time. And also, this word chemine means black powder from Egypt, or the preparation of black powder. So there's that K-E-M again. in it. So yes, chem means black. It sure does. Chemia, chemistry, black magic. Preparation of black powder. Land of the black bull. So you guys got it, right? So, Ham, was he black or Negro? No. He moved to a hot land with black earth that happened to have black bull worship. Okay. His later descendants later colonized, we know this, Babylonia, southern Arabia, Egypt or Ethiopia, later called Cush, after his son. Okay, you know the land of Cush. It's northern Africa. You guys seen your Bible maps, right? Okay, now we're going to go to Genesis 10:6. Genesis 10:6, I'll read. And the sons of Ham, Cush, Mizraim, and Phut, and Canaan. Okay, famous names. We know these guys, right? Cush is generally translated Ethiopian, like we said. That's the land of Ham. And the land of Ham became the land of Cush. However, the Ethiopians traveled as well. And a lot of people think the Ethiopians just stayed right there in northern Africa, but they traveled quite a little bit. But nobody really talks about that. But there is somebody that talked about the Ethiopians. And that, of course, is our good old Homer to the Odyssey. Let's see what Homer says. Now, Poseidon's going to take a little trip. Poseidon, however, was now gone on a visit to the distant Ethiopians, the furthest outposts of mankind, half of whom live where the sun goes down, and half where he rises. There's two Ethiopian populations, according to Homer. Okay, well, let's talk about King Menelaus. What'd he say? Red-haired Menelaus. Now, King Menelaus was a red-haired king who happened to travel on his ships all around the world. Okay, back in these days. No mortal man. Okay, my travels, it took me 7 years to amass this fortune and get it home in my ships. My travels took me to Cyprus, to Phoenicia, and to Egypt, where the Ethiopians, Sidonians, and Arambi live. Okay, so that confirms, here's the world as Homer knew it. All right, Homer. And what did we just say? Well, we said that according to Poseidon and his adventures, the Ethiopians are somewhere where the sun sets and somewhere where the sun rises. Not just in Egypt here, right? And then King Menelaus is like, well, yeah, I've been south, and that's where what did he say? King Menelaus said, yes, I went to, my travels took me to Cyprus, right there, Phoenicia, coastlands, okay, and to Egypt, where Ethiopians, Sidonians, be Sidonians, and Arambi live. Arambi, right there. Arambi's another word for Arabians. Arabians, an ancient name for Arabians. So what's Homer talking about? Is he just way out in left field? Well, we thought he was till we found Troy. So there's that. So, so anyway, and you'll see here that the ocean is actually a ring. Okay? And that's Oceanus. Okay, Oceanus actually had, just a side note for you guys. This is how you traveled the world. You went around the ring ocean. Oceanus had a daughter, a goddess of the rivers, called Patamai. Patamai, if you think back to Virginia, you'll find a river called the Potomac. It's named after that daughter of Oceanus. Yep, just so you know. The ocean ring, however, did not bring you to one of two places. You couldn't get there using this current. You couldn't get to the river Styx, which is the underworld river. It took you to Hades, right? Couldn't get it from there. And you couldn't get to this river here in Ethiopia. It was a sacred river for whatever reason. All right, well, fast fact for the day. Okay, so we have, according to these guys, the accounts that Ethiopians are on the east and west of something somewhere. There's 2 bands of them at least. Job will prove it. I'll use Job. He'll prove it. Job says, yeah, that's right. Poseidon's right. Homer's right. King Menelaus is right. Job 28:19, I read, the topaz of Ethiopia shall not equal it, neither shall it be valued with pure gold. What Job's talking about is he's like, no mention of it. The gold, let's see. He's talking about wisdom. And he says that the topaz of Ethiopia shall not equal it. neither shall it be valued with pure gold. So he's talking about wisdom's value. But he mentions the topaz of Ethiopia. Well, Job is dead wrong, because Ethiopia does not have topaz in it. You don't find topaz in Ethiopia, but he will help us. So topaz is not found in ancient Egypt or Ethiopia in ancient times. Job's wrong. So topaz, then, is an igneous rock, meaning it was formed by volcanic activity. And it's also the November birthstone, just so you guys know. I don't buy into all that, but whatever. You recognize it. You're like, that's a birthstone. Which one? November. Okay, now, topaz. That's what, and he's talking about topaz in Ethiopia. Well, it's not there. Topaz is found in Zabargad Island. That's where topaz comes from. It's also known as St. John's Island now. You can take yacht tours there. So St. John's Island is a part of a group of volcanic islands formed north of the Tropic of Cancer. Okay. Now, rocks found on this island are mainly lower crustal igneous rocks. The island is rich in the gemstone peridot. Peridot. Okay. Peridot, which is the August birthstone, the green one. Peridot's ancient name actually is olivine because of its green color, which is, now there were nickel deposits on the island these were mined from. This island here is just a blow up of this, and there you'll see the deposits of peridot. There's 3 masses of them on this island. And this is very important stuff. But peridot, there are nickel deposits on this island as well, which causes the peridot to become from green to yellow. Okay, to yellow. To yellow. All right. So, in ancient times, the peridot found on this island was mistaken for topaz. So Job is right. Job is right. But he mistook topaz for peridot. It's easy to do because it turns yellow in the nickel deposits. But this was the only source of peridot in the ancient world. The only one. So, the old name for the island, when the Greeks found it, was called Topazios, because that's where topaz comes from. But now we know it's not really topaz they were finding, it was yellow peridot. But how's Job going to know that? So, topaz and peridot are not the same. They are actually comprised of different silicate minerals, and their chemical composition and hardness is different. So, topaz and peridot are not the same, but they were mistaken for each other. Okay? And in ancient times, topaz used to refer to peridot, which has caused the confusion. So back to Zabargad Island here. Okay, according to the historian Pliny, or Pliny the Elder, the discovery of peridot or topaz on this island came about because some people were traveling from here to there and from there to here. Okay, they were sailing ships, right? And what happened is they landed on this island here, and when they were facing a famine, they began looking around and scavenging for herbs and roots to eat. Well, while they were doing that, they uncovered a mysterious gemstone. Okay? These gemstones were actually peridot, but are mistaken for topaz. And these eventually found their way to Egypt. Peridot, okay, because some on the other deposits, there are some that are actually green like they're supposed to be, or yellow-green. Well, they brought them to Egypt. Okay, so they brought them to Egypt, and actually the pharaohs, Cleopatra, she really liked that. This is not emerald, this is peridot from that island. They actually ground up pieces of peridot and used it as eyeliner and cosmetics too. So peridot's all over Egypt, right? It's all over Egypt. But that's because it came from this island here and here. Okay, so now how do Job and topaz prove that there were Ethiopians eastward then? Because topaz of Ethiopia is found on both east and west of the sea, the Red Sea. So Poseidon was right. The Ethiopians, half of whom live where the sun goes down, half of whom live where it rises. Okay, we're getting somewhere. Topaz, it's the key. So we use geology for theology. All right? Now, Zipporah then. Zipporah? She was called a Cushite. Was she not? Well, that means Zipporah came from down here. Well, we got a big, big problem, which means Zipporah's black, right? If Cush is black, which we said he's not now. But everybody's heard that Zipporah was black. Miriam spoke up about it and then got slapped with leprosy because God's okay with interracial marriage, right? You guys have heard this, right? Zipporah's black? Okay. Zipporah is a Cushite. Absolutely. The problem with her being from the land of Cush is that puts her down here. But the Bible tells us that she was a daughter of the priest of Midian, right? Now, Midian is over here in Arabia, Arambi. Well, that's right then. Ethiopia is over here too, in the east. Zipporah came from east, Midian, and she was a Cushite from the east. Well, that's right. That's absolutely right. So yes, Ethiopians are west, Ethiopians are over here in the Arabian Peninsula, in Midian, the land of Midian. So yes, Zipporah, it is quite possible that Zipporah, being a Cushite, was also from the east lands called Midian. Fine. And she was not black because the Ethiopians weren't black. We know that now. So that'll straighten that out. So now you know Ham was not black. No way, no sir, no how. And neither was Zipporah. Call her a Cushite if you want, but that doesn't make her black. Call her an Ethiopian if you want. That doesn't make her black. You can call her a Cushite Ethiopian from Midian. That's fine, because that all works. Why? Well, because of topaz. That's it. Howard Rand didn't find it. I did. Whatever. So, Zipporah, the daughter of Midian, Topaz and Zipporah prove that Cush was both was both in Egypt and pushed east to Arabia and Midian. Okay, and that's very important. Genesis 10:6 also mentioned Mizraim as one of Ham's sons. Let's find out if they're black people. Mizraim is another word for Egypt, again, where Ham dwelled, and you'll see that in the Bible. And God says Mizraim. All right, we know that. Now, to understand Mizraim, we have to understand Ramesses, the name Ramesses. Remember him? Ramesses II? We know him. Okay, so Ra means the sun god Ra. Meses, or Mes, means child. So Ramesses is the child of Ra. That's what his name means. And actually, the Egyptians called themselves Ra-Misu, or Ra-Mishu, which is the children of Ra. Okay, so Ramesses means the son of Ra. That's it. Important. Actually, if you go through the Moshe, Meses, Mishi name, you'll find that Moses comes from Moshe. And that's the son, that's the Moshe, Moses. They didn't have M-O in the Egyptian language, so Moshe, or she, Meshi, means literally the child who was brought out of the water at the river's brink. That's what Moshe means. So yes, just like the Pharaoh's daughter said, I will name him Moses because I pulled him out of the water. It's exactly what it means, Moshe, and we get that from Mrs. Meshu, child of the water. Child of the water. That's what it means. And you think about him being brought out of the Red Sea again. Water kind of follows Moses all around, so I think it's an appropriate name. Anyway, and the word ark there in the Hebrew also means cradle. Cradle. Ark. And it was with pitch, just like Noah's. Right? Anyway, the city of Ra is called Mizra, city of the sun god. This district was in Ramesses district. You guys putting this together? This district also had 2 fortresses built by some mysterious slave peoples. They can't figure out who built these. Okay. Mizraim is the city of Ra, okay, in an ancient district called Kashi, which is where Ka is bull, she, Ka is calf, the calf bull, where sacred calf worship is found, called Kashi. When you get into the word Kashi, so Mizraim is a city with a district of Kashi in it. Goshi. Goshen. Okay, there we go. So Mizraim is a place named after Ham's son that's a city of Ra, and Goshen's a district with calf worship. Easy enough. How you guys are missing this, I don't know. Okay. Ham's son, foot. Easy enough. You go to the LXX, Septuagint, you'll find it translated foot is always translated Libya or Libyans. Homer's right again. Libyans. Foot. Matter of fact, the old name for Libyans is Foothites. There they are. Okay. Now, Ham's son Canaan. I'm not going to go into that. We know who Canaan is. He was down here, then he was up here, then he was down here, then he traded all around the world. He used Semitic languages. We've gone over all this. Controversy of Moses, all this stuff, right? Or Moses controversy. So they moved south and north around. Canaan went quite a few places. And they were eventually conquered by Shem and Japheth's families, right? We know that. And that would be the curse Noah put on Canaan then, would it not? There's that curse. Canaan was conquered by who? Shem and Japheth. The guys that did the right thing and covered up dad, right? Okay, so we've previously discussed their languages, and that was out on a limb in my 16 July sermon. So if you want to know about those guys. Now, so the Hamites then were not black people. They were a race of builders. And then, of course, think of the other cities and fortresses mentioned in the Bible that Ham built. Egypt, Babylon, that would be the Tower of Babel too. That was his son Nimrod, great hunter and builder of cities. Hamites. Not idiots, not black people. Builders. Egypt, they built that. They built Babylon. They built Nineveh. They built Tyre, and they built Sidon. That's Ham. Okay, that's Ham. That's the end of Ham. Genesis 9:25. Ham, we figured it out. He wasn't black. Neither is Zipporah. White people, white builder race, just like we've always known. Why it gets preached the other way by some of our other kingdom ministers, I have no idea. But I'll straighten it out for you guys. 9:25, and he said, "Cursed be Canaan, a servant unto servants shall be unto his brethren." There's the curse, and Canaan was indeed cursed. Okay, the word Canaan actually means low born, low country, low man. Okay, Canaan, the low one. That's part of the curse, and we busted Canaan up, and they're gone. Actually, the Hamitic language, the language of Ham, that's so far gone. We don't even know where it is because they got conquered so completely by Ham and Shem. There is no such thing as the Hamitic language anymore. It just got assimilated when they got blasted out of existence by the conquering armies of Shem and Japheth. Again, Noah's curse is what? Curse be Canaan. That fits. All right, now, who is Shem? Genesis 9:26. And he said, "Blessed be the Lord God of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant." Notice he put Canaan in there with the blessing, curse of Shem. It's like, Shem, you're going to be blessed by God, and Canaan shall be your servant. Well, yes, of course. He put Canaan down, so that's true. And God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem, and Canaan shall be his servant. So these are the things that Noah proclaims upon his three sons. And I don't know why, in the commentaries and everything I've ever read, they don't know why he didn't specifically say, "Cursed be Ham." He skipped Ham and went straight to Canaan. But I don't know if that's a patriarch thing. But anyway, we know that it happened because he said, "Cursed be Canaan. Shem, you'll be blessed by God. Japheth, you'll be enlarged and dwell in Shem's tents." That's what he said after this episode. So if you go through Genesis 10:22 through 29, which we're not reading this morning, you'll see the generations of these guys. But look at Genesis 10:30. Genesis 10:30, "And their dwelling was from Mesha, as thou goest unto Saphar, a mount to the east." Okay, and this is the Mesa. So this is where Shem's people are going to live. These look at verse 22, the children of Shem. Okay, and then you keep going through his genealogies, and at the end he says, in 30, "And their dwelling was Mesha, from Mesha, as thou goest east unto Saphar, a mountain to the east." So Mesha or Musa, we'll show you where Shem lived back in the old days. Mesha or Musa is actually at the mouth of the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, which is right here in what is currently modern-day Iraq, known as the city of Basra. Actually, it's near Basra. The ancient name of Basra was Basora, and Musa is not far from that. A lot of research. Okay, and Safar, or Zafar as it's called today, is an ancient city down here in modern-day Yemen. So Shem lived all over this. Okay, that's where Shem ran around. And you know this from Bible lands. You know where we're at, right? The wilderness. Okay, Shem's all over this. Now, Shem's genealogy is this. Okay? Shem, count 12, Israel. Easy enough. Or the Israelites. Jacob, I know, was chained to Israel. Shem, count 12, boom, there they are. These are families. A lot of our own people. Whole bunch of them. People don't think of it this way. I do. God only chose one. Just one from these guys. Where are all these guys at? Where'd they go? Are they still white? Are they still alive? Yep, you betcha. Elam, the Elamites. Aram, the Aramites. Uz, we see him some. Meshach, we see him again. Not that Meshach, the one in Abednego, not him. Meshach. Peleg, this is the, Peleg means division, right? The Tower of Babel. Okay. Serug, Nahor, and we know these guys. But he only chose this one out of all the families of the earth. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind, okay? And then Shem's genealogy we see is Shem, down. Isaac, we know him. Jacob, we know that guy. He had 12 sons who are the 12 tribes of Israel. So Shem was the chosen seed through which eventually, you really think about it, all the way down to Jesus, being Judah and all. So Jesus is way down here somewhere. There's Shem, okay? And eventually, as we'll understand this later, Shem eventually is same bloodline as the Levitical priesthood then, is he not? Is he not? Are the father of the Levites, great, is the great-great-grandfather of the Levites Shem? Yes. Yes, he is. Right? You follow? Okay. All right, you guys are giving me that deer in the headlights look. I'm like, okay, we're not going too fast. Okay, so I know it's a big, long list to think about, but yeah, somewhere in there, Levi is related to Shem. No doubt about it. All right, and he's related to a whole lot of other people too. Keep that in mind. Now, who is Japheth? Japheth, according to Genesis 10:2 through 5. This will be Genesis 10:2 through 5. And I'm going to stop the video. Okay, so we have a map here. This map is actually not online in this resolution. It's very small. I'm going to get on to Destiny Publishers for that. I want a big 1920 by 1080p at least, or maybe a 4K version of this, so I can zoom in and show you guys on the TV. But I have to go old school with you. Okay, so we had Genesis 10:2 through 5, which is going to list Japheth's descendants. Okay, then we're going to go through them real quick so we can figure this out. And I brought my chopstick with me so I can point these out to you guys. So we have Gomer, the ancestor to whom the Greeks called the Galatians, who were formerly called the Gomerites. See, Gomer. The descendants of Gomer have been identified with another people of Homer's time called the Cimeri, inhabiting the mountains of Crimea. Okay, so they were driven north. So we have Greeks call the Gomerites Galatians. Right? They've been identified as the Cimeri, which you should see up here somewhere. Oh, there's Cimeri. Oh. Cimeri, Galatia, right here. Then they were driven north. They inhabited eventually Crimea. Okay, you guys see that? They're driven north by the Scythian army into Asia Minor, and then their name changes to Cimbri, and from there they went further north. So we have the Cimbri, Crimea, driven north, just like the Bible says, and then they were known eventually, they went further north into Europe, and eventually they were known as the Cimeri, a great tribe of the Celts. Gomer, Japheth's son, Gomer. Cimeri And they were the ancient inhabitants of Britain and the present inhabitants of Wales. And there you see Cymri again. So there's Gomer. Galatia, Cymri, driven north, Celts, and Welsh. Done. Japheth's family. Just like that. Magog, the descendants were Scythians, and they were accomplished horsemen with bows. Right? They were intermixed with the Medes, and from them we get the Russians and some Samaritans. So we have the Scythians here, and you'll see they're not on the map, but the Scythians will actually be, oh, there they are. Scythians, Russia. There they go. And they're the ones that drove the Cymri north too. Scythians, horseback warriors. Even Rome had a problem with those guys. Big problem with them. Caesar. Okay, so we have Javan. Now, according to Daniel, you guys remember the statue of the kingdoms that were going to go away? Thou art the head of gold, right? You know? Okay, Babylon would fall to the Medes and the Persians. Remember that? That happened in Daniel's time. That was writing on the wall. The Medo-Persian Empire came in and busted them up. Babylon. Right there. Okay, so Javan, and then the next people that would bust up that empire, so Media, Persia came and invaded Babylon. They sat there for a while. Who's the next one in the statue? Who's the next guys? Greece. Greece came over and got them. Who? Exactly. Alexander the Great came over. Now, he is called the king of the Javanites. The king of the Greeks. Is he not? That's him. His old name's King of Javan. King of the Javanites. So that's Alexander. And he next would conquer Babylon after Media Persia, just as Daniel tells us, just as history tells us. Okay? And according to Joel, the Grecians, Joel 3:6, I think. If you look at the translation, Grecians is translated sons of the Javanites. So very definitely Javan's, the son of Japheth, Javan, is very definitely Greeks, conquering Greeks. Javan is known as the Greeks, and if you go down to Egypt, they called the Greeks the same thing. They called them something else, but it was the same people. Ionians. Ionia, another name for the Greek area. Ionia. Egypt had a name for them too. Javan was called either Greeks or Ionia, depending on where you're at in the world. And the Egyptians called them the Ionians, and you could also call them the Hellenic peoples, just as the Bible says. Remember? Even the Pharisees asked where Jesus had gone, and they said, did he go teach the Hellenes? The Greeks. They were known. Right? Okay, the Hellenes. Tubal and Meshach are, not a lot about them, but they're always together. Like when you see them in the Bible, Tubal and Meshach are always allied with one another in an alliance. But they also ally themselves with somebody else. Magog. So they form, Tubal, Meshach, and Magog all form an invading northern army. And of course you can see Meshach, Muscovy, Meshach. Another of Japheth's sons sitting right here, and there's Russia. And remember our prophecies, we would have an invading army from the north. Bible prophecy, you always take cardinal directions literally. So in this age, we're not looking for Canada to invade us. We're still looking for our great northern enemy of the old land, which is what? Russia, Gog, Magog. There's Meshach and Tubal, Bulgaria. There they are. So keep an eye on these guys. Keep an eye on those guys. And we've always known that. This is the great enemy, communism. Sits over here, doesn't it? Okay, Bible's right. So if you're looking for Canada to invade America, you're wrong. Always take end-time prophecy, cardinal directions, literally at the time where it was given. He tells about a great northern army. He's standing here. The great northern army is Gog and Magog, of course, who are Japheth's sons, Meshach, Tubal, and the Scythians, all allied with another to have a foreign, or a northern invading army. There it is, all there on the map. Tiras is another one of Japheth's sons. He is known as the Thracians, and they are down here somewhere, if I'm not mistaken. Thrace. They are Thrace and the Getae and Daci of the northern Danube. Thracians. That is Japheth's son, Tiras. All right, and Japheth's son, Elisha. Not that one, not the prophet. They are maritime peoples of Grecian stock. Okay? Javan's son Elisha. So we have Japheth, his son is Javan, the Greek guy, right? Alexander? Javan now has sons. We have to understand this. Javan now has sons. Who are Javan's sons? Elisha, people of Grecian stock who were seafarers. Tarshish, that is another one of the famous of Javan's sons, is Tarshish. If you go over here, you're going to see Tartessus. It's the seaport in Spain. The ships of Tarshish went to Tartessus. It's a difficult one. Anyway, there they are. Here is Tarshish. Tartessus was a seaport of the west. Notice in Spain, once again, and remember last week we talked about Spain had what? Tin. So did Britain, and King David had quite the collection, didn't he? He was quite rich in that. So was Solomon, because of the ships of Tarshish. All right, so ships of Tarshish, and they were seafaring people who were known to trade precious metals such as silver, Ag, iron, Fe, tin, Sn, and lead, Pb. So there we go. These guys were precious metals come from the ships of Tarshish, and we know these things. And they were, Tarshish also had shipping colonies and lanes among Phoenicia, the seafaring maritime merchant marines, right? Okay. Javan's sons, Kittim or Chittim, are the Macedonians. Oh, I'm sorry, Macedonia, right there. Okay, keep an eye on these guys. We'll get there. Javan's son, Dodanim, Darda or Dardanum or Dardanians. That's always Greek. Always Greek, from the Greek dad Javan, right? Darda, who were known as the Trojans of northern Greece. And there's Troy right there. And then we've got the Rhodians, or Rhodi, are peoples of Rhodes, who were also, and you know Rhodes, it had a famous wonder of the world, the Colossus, right? These are all Darda, King Darda, the Trojan king. He fought in the war. Check Homer again, you'll find him. He's a big character. All right. Now, that is what I'm going to do with this map this morning. So we will move it, and I'll get back to you. Okay, so we're back to Genesis 10:5 then. We'll read, by these, so here in Genesis 10:5, we'll see the genealogies of the sons. We got Japheth in verse 2, sons of Gomer, sons of Javan, and then here is Japheth's family is summed up in verse 5 of Genesis 10. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided in their lands, everyone after his tongue, and their families in their nations. What does that mean? Islands of the nations. Isles of the nations. What we just looked at is what Genesis 10:5 is about. These are the nations scattered abroad. These are the nations scattered abroad. The isles of the Gentiles. Who? Non-believers. Who don't know the good news. We'll get there. But anyway, that's what Genesis 10:5 is talking about. Genesis 10:5, think of our map. By these were the isles of the Gentiles divided, scattered among the world. Okay, so there's that map. Now, the map is what we just looked at, is the nations of Japheth. The nations of Japheth, right? Who the remnant of Israel were to go to or be scattered among, right? We're going to get to that in a bit. So we have Shem, who eventually, make sure I'm here, okay. So we have Shem, who eventually gets to, just a second, I have my map wrong. Genesis 10, 2 through 5, map. There we go. We have Shem, who eventually becomes Jacob, who eventually becomes the 12th tribe, Israel, right? Who eventually we get to Levi. On down and down and down. And then from Levi, we have actually his generations here. Levi here, we'll start again for you guys. Esau, Jacob, 12. Okay, this is just a piece of the one we had. Blue is boys, pink is girls. Easy enough. Jacob has a brother Esau. Jacob has sons with Leah, Rachel, Bilhah, and Zilpah, right? Together they all have 12, Dinah being a daughter. There's 13, I know, but there's Dinah. 12 are there. Here's Levi. Levi eventually has 3 sons. Kohath, Amram, Aaron, right? So you guys know this. There's Aaron, his brother Moses, and his sister Miriam. Okay, and you'll look, they came from Kohath, who came from Levi, who came from Jacob, on, Shem. Okay? Now look here, Kohath is it's actually pretty cool, because Kohath he went here, and then there's Korah. So Korah was right. You know, he's like, hey, look, we're from the same guy. We're from Levi, just like you, Aaron. What's the big idea? You think you can run the nation. We're the same as you. And he's right. They are exactly in the same genealogy. So Korah had a stake in the claim. He had some skin in the game, but he was dead wrong. So there's Korah. Kohath is the common ancestor to both Aaron, Korah, and the rest of them. But it was through Levi, through Kohath, through Amram, and then Aaron, the high priesthood, came down to us. Okay, the high priesthood is there. So let's go to Numbers 4:5 and see what this tabernacle thing is all about. We've gone over Ham and Cush, and now we're going to switch gears and go straight to the tabernacle and tie it all together in one fell swoop. So, Numbers 4:5. And when the camp setteth forward, Aaron shall come and his sons, and they shall take down the covering veil and cover the ark of testimony with it. Okay? And that ties everything together this morning. So they took the veil down and covered the ark. These Levitical priests, these high priests of Aaron. Now, Shem and Japheth covered their father by walking backwards. The Levitical priests also took a garment or veil, and they walked backwards to cover the ark, because no man can look upon the ark and live, because the ark was the face of God. He told Moses as such. And if you think about it, Moses he hid his face when he saw the burning bush because of the glory of God. So these Aaronites, when it was time to tear down and pack up camp, these guys, Aaron and his sons, took the veil down that separated the Holy of Holies from the holy place. They walked backwards and covered it up. Okay? Just like Shem and Japheth did. So instead of showing you the signs, symbols, and types of the veil going forward, which is an easy one, the rending of the veil, the separation of us from the high priest, right? You know all this, right? Instead of going forward from the ark forward, we're going to go from Ham and Japheth and show you the symbols and types that lead to the ark's veil. So before the ark was ever here, we have 2 sons who took the garment and walked backwards and covered something up to honor the Father. Oh, okay. There it is. Oh, man. So then when it's time, now Aaron, Shem, so Shem, the same guy, right? He became who? Levi. His sons are going to cover up the ark by walking backwards. To cover not the shame of the father, but to cover the father. Why? Because you're not to look at him. You're not to do that. Symbols and types. Okay, so Genesis 9:27, we read again. God shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall dwell in the tents of Shem. Japheth was enlarged, and we know that because we went through his entire family history. Japheth is huge, isn't he? We just saw him. That map we looked at, he enlarged Japheth. He certainly did. Noah was right. And then he's to dwell in the tents of Shem. Who's Shem? What are Shem's tents? Who'd Shem become? Levi. Levi has a tent. What's it called? The tabernacle. Right? The tents of Shem. We had the tabernacle, and then all around that was Shem. Right? Because Shem is who? The 12 tribes, right? So the tents of Shem are the 12 tribes' tents around that tabernacle. And Japheth apparently is going to be a very large number of people who are going to dwell in those tents. End time prophecy. So, Japheth will dwell in Shem's tents. Jesus will clear that up for us. Certainly will. Matthew 28, 18. And Jesus came and spake unto them, saying, All power is given unto me in heaven and in earth. Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and the Son and the Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you, and lo, I am with you always, even until the end of the world. Jesus just solved the whole thing for us, didn't he? Who is Jesus talking to here? His kings and priests, the remnant of Israel. Shem. Now, they're the ones worshiping God in the Lord's house or the tabernacle, right? That's who Jesus is talking to. Now, who do we go to? All nations. Remember our map. Who? The scattered, non-believing family of Japheth. Those nations. They're all over the place. The other good son. Okay. Isaiah says the same thing. We'll check end time prophecy. Jesus' great commission and Isaiah are nearly identical. If you know what to do with Israel and end time prophecy, that is. Isaiah 66. And this is where we'll end today. Isaiah 66, verse 1 through 8. Sorry, I lost my place. Give me a second. Isaiah 66 is the last chapter. 66 books, 66 chapters. Isaiah 66, 1. Thus saith the Lord, the heaven is my throne, and the earth is my footstool. Where's the house that ye build unto me, and where's the place of my rest? He's talking about that tabernacle, because that's where God dwelt, right? So where is it now, Israel? For all those things that the hand made, and all those things have been, saith the Lord, but to this man I will look, even to him that is poor, and of contrite spirit, and trembleth at my word. Okay? Poor and contrite of spirit, and trembleth at my word, is someone who listens to God, right? Who's willing to take direction. Trembling, you'll see the trembling is always, in God's presence, is always Israel. Always Israel. Look at verse 4. I will also choose their delusions, and will bring their fears upon them, because when I called them, none did answer, but when I spake, they did not hear, but they did evil before mine eyes, and I chose that which I delighted not. So, 5, hear the word of the Lord, ye that tremble at his word. Listen up, remnant of Israel. Your brethren that hated you, that cast you out of for my name's sake, said, let the Lord be glorified, but he shall appear to you joy, and they shall be ashamed. This is exactly what we're talking about in Isaiah 61 this morning. That those that won't believe will turn and see one day, and those that have always followed God will be rewarded, right? So this is God's plan with his remnant. It's what we're reading about. Verse 6, a voice of noise from the city, a voice of the temple, a voice of the Lord that rendereth recompense to his enemies. Before she travailed, she brought forth. Before her pain came, she was delivered of a man-child. Who hath heard such a thing? Who hath seen such things? Shall the earth be made to bring forth in one day? Or shall a nation be born at once? It was born at once in 1776, by the way. For as soon as Zion travailed, she brought forth her children. Shall I bring to the birth, and not cause to bring forth, saith the Lord? Shall I cause to bring forth, and shut up the womb, saith God? Sounds like confusing language, but really it is God saying, you remnant of Israel, who have continued to follow me no matter what, in the face of your enemies who naysay me, you will be rewarded with a place of your own one day. Stay the course. That's what he's saying. Look at verse 19. And I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them, remnant of Israel, unto the nations, to Tarshish, son of Javan, Pull, Lod, that draw the bow, Tubal, and Javan, and to the isles afar off, that have not seen my fame, neither have seen my glory, and they shall declare my glory among the Gentiles, or among the nations. What did Jesus just say? Go ye therefore and teach all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost, teaching them to observe all things whatsoever I have commanded you. God's telling us the same thing here as he did in Matthew. What? I will set a sign among them, Shem, Israel. Those that escaped of them, the remnant, is to what? Go unto the other nations, Japheth. And then he lists Japheth's family for some odd reason. And to the isles afar off, who have who? Who's these sons of and these nations of Japheth? What's wrong with them? Well, they haven't seen my fame, neither have they seen my glory. Go, Shem, to Japheth and declare my glory. That's what he's telling us to do. Why? To what end? Verse 22. For as, oh wait, just a second. And they shall bring all your brethren for an offering unto the house of the Lord out of all nations, upon horses and in chariots and in litters, and upon mules and upon swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, saith the Lord, as the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel into the house of the Lord. So when Shem goes to Japheth, he's going to do what? Well, apparently Japheth, according to this, are going to become Christians before who they weren't before, right? Because they don't know God's glory. Shem's going to go to Japheth, declare the glory of God, and then apparently, according to verse 20, they're going to come and bring all your brethren for an offering unto the Lord into Jerusalem, and they're going to be clean. So Shem's going to preach to Japheth. Japheth is then going to come with Shem to the house of the Lord, or the tent, and dwell with them as Christians in the nation. That's what Jesus told us to do. That's what Noah said would happen. Noah said, I will make Japheth a large nation of peoples. He will dwell in the tents of Shem, right? Or what? He will learn from Shem's ways and then go to church with him. And then Jesus turns right around and tells us to go to the nations and tell them all about Jesus and the good news of the gospel of the kingdom. Why? To what end? Verse 21, and I will take of them for priests and for Levites, saith the Lord. They're going to be Christians who work for Jesus. And here's the end. For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before me, saith the Lord, so shall your seed and your name remain. And it shall come to pass that from one new moon to another, and from one Sabbath to another, shall all flesh come unto worship before me, saith the Lord. In the New Jerusalem, the kingdom age, apparently, there's going to be nothing but 24-hour worship of God in the new earth. Worship how? By serving him. Everybody. Shem and Japheth. And then, of course, and they, look at verse 24, and they shall go forth and look upon the carcasses of the men that have transgressed against me, for their worm shall not die, neither shall their fire be quenched, and they shall be an abhorring unto all flesh. Shem will go to preach to Japheth with their tents, tabernacles, right? Verse 20 said, Japheth, that large population, will dwell in Shem's tent after becoming clean, believing Christians. Right? And then verse 24, Ham is cursed for dishonoring his father or transgressing against me. There's Ham in verse 24. So what Noah said was right. What Jesus said was right. Shem, go to Japheth and tell him about the kingdom. They will be converted Christians and they will want to know more. They will go to your tents. They will dwell with you. You will teach them my ways, and they will become believers. Do not worry about Ham. He transgressed his father. He will be an abhorring unto flesh because his moral inclination is that of a kingdom, not of a kingdom-minded individual. Ham, Shem, and Japheth. That's why this simple question about Ham took an entire sermon and a whole lot of geology and genealogy. Just to understand that Noah's, what he pronounces among his sons, is prophesied in Isaiah and then told to us by Jesus himself. The believing remnant, who Shem ended up becoming, right? They will have church. They will know the truth. Their job is to then go out and spread, like I said, spread the word, Shem, to the other families of the earth. Go out, Israel, to the other families of the earth and tell them the good news. And you remember where Japheth and them ended up. Macedonia, who Paul preached to, right? All these people were preached to. Every last one. The Great Commission. All nations. Japheth. Shem, find Japheth, the other good son, tell him the good news, and have them become Christians and dwell with us. Ham, who dishonored his father, will be a curse among you. And he is. And he is. And that's all we have for today.